Now we're on the air.
Hey, we're live.
Isn't that exciting?
That's great. I love seeing the on-air button.
I find that doing the podcast live puts kind of a fire under the guests and me to elevate a bit more to understand that you can't cut it out.
Well, you're performing now.
You know,
there's no editing.
Right? There's no we'll fix that later.
Yeah.
No, you can't fix it. It's over now.
There's also an authenticity to it because you're not curating anything. It's just going out as it is.
It's happening live.
It's
Live.
It's happening.
There's no way to fix this.
It's radio. That's what it is.
Accident happening. That's why radio is so much fun.
I love radio. I always love radio.
Yeah, I'm doing a live podcasting, or as they call it, radio.
Wow, what an idea.
They should make this small transistor-type box that has batteries that I could listen to this just with wireless.
Yeah, but then it would ruin my newspaper.
I've done that before where, like my Wi-Fi will go out in my house, or the internet goes out in the house, and I don't have the streaming Pandora or whatever running on the Amazon Alexa, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Oh, I can just turn this, and I put on my radio.
You still have a radio?
I still have a radio.
What? Do you crank it by hand?
I'd love to get a crank.
Wouldn't that be great?
They give those away when they do like the WNYC fundraiser drive sometimes. They're like, get this emergency radio. And I'm like, I kind of want one where it's complete. You crank it and then it works.
Can I be honest? That sounds like a novelty in 2013.
Yeah.
And almost an essential part of your go bag in 2019.
It's true.
Don't you think? The apocalypse. The inevitable apocalypse. Hey, I'm going to need that hand crank radio.
I'm going to introduce you now.
Oh, cool. Hi. Yeah, good.
Hi, and welcome to Talkward. I'm Marty Dundix, and this is Talkward, which is a fun little podcast where we have professionally funny people come and tell awkward and cringeworthy stories. Today's guest is Jason Chatfield. Welcome, Jason Chatfield.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Do you have an awkward or cringeworthy story?
I
always forget to tell people that ahead of time.
Well, it's a given.
I hope that's okay. I know. Well, I know that not only are you a famous cartoonist, in Mad Magazine, The New Yorker, syndicated strip cartoon.
Do you want to be my agent?
Ginger Megs.
Doing a good job.
You're also a stand-up comic.
Yes.
And voice actor and commercial actor.
Hey, you got to hustle,
man. You have so many hustles.
It sounds like a lot, but it's really two. I mean, it's performing and it's being a cartoonist. It's a humorist. I'm a weekly humorist.
You're like a minute-by-minute humorist.
Sure, yeah. Well, the thing is, there's no one... Back in the day, you could be a comic strip cartoonist and be a millionaire. You could literally be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Just do a comic strip.
Yeah, like Jim Davis.
Sure.
Garfield, right?
Like Jim Davis, like Yanni Bushmeller.
And then you have the people who are recluses, like the Bill Wattersons.
Sure.
Calvin and Hobbes.
My favorite, yeah. But then nowadays, I mean, I'm a syndicated newspaper comic strip cartoonist. I kind of entered that party as they were sweeping up the cups. And it seems like now what I'm doing is trying to evolve and adapt to like whatever people are looking at now, where people are reading.
I've always been fascinated by, and I was an avid reader of newspaper cartoons every single day.
Yep.
And when I go home to visit my parents who get the newspaper every day, I got a newspaper every day in New York, in Brooklyn.
Huh.
But the newspaper that I would get was the Wall Street Journal. Didn't have cartoons.
Yeah, it had Trudeau, I think.
And then I got the New York Times for a while. Mm-hmm. They don't have cartoons.
Nope.
Like nobody has cartoons in these expensive daily newspapers.
Right.
But I go home to suburban Maryland. And they get the Washington Post and they get the Capital newspaper. Mm-hmm. Both of them have daily cartoons.
Big color comic sections, yeah.
Oh, the weekends, yeah.
They know what's good.
And I read them.
Yeah.
My mom reads Baby Blues.
Ah,
she
Jim
loves the
Kirkman.
baby. Loves the Baby Blues.
Jerry Scott, yes.
One of the funniest things
Rick
families can do together is try to tell somebody how funny a comic strip is without showing them the comic strip. It's always like, listen to this Baby Blues.
Yeah.
And then my mom reads to me, the Baby Blues, does not work, doesn't translate.
Here's the thing.
You got to look at it.
Those two, so Jerry Scott and Jim Kirkman, who do that strip, are both funny, just funny people.
Yeah.
You know how people have just funny in their bones?
Yeah.
And Kirkman also, I think he has another strip, and then Jerry Scott also writes Zits with Jim Borgman.
Oh, another one.
He has two
They
big
love
major
Zits.
comic strips. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Same guy. Yeah.
And what's the other one that it's the two animals No, is it Mutts?
Mutts has two animals. Yeah, that has a cat and a dog. That's,
Mutts.
But then also you've got like Pearls Before Swine.
Pearls Before Swine, that's
so
the
think
one.
Stefan Pastis.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
And that's the thing. So that industry used to be so lucrative and so insanely big. And it's still to a degree if you have like, a really big following and you put out books. And
King Features Syndicate.
Yeah, Universal.
Was that the big one?
That was one of the big
that
two.
was the big. That was when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was on every single strip.
Well, they had. I think they had the really big. Yeah, they had the big
Like
ones.
Peanuts?
I think Peanuts was with
Beetle Bailey.
Yeah, Beetle
Hagar
Bailey.
the Horrible.
Hagar, yeah. Well, so it's between like Universal and King, which Universal is now called Andrews McNeil Syndication.
Is that what you
Go
are?
Comics. Yeah, that's who I'm with.
Okay.
And they had like Garfield and all that sort of stuff. King is like Zitz, and then you've got.
I've been seeing a lot of this Go Comics.
Yeah, it's pretty
everywhere.
good.
You know
a lot of
who's on there?
webcomics
Like Mike Shield.
Yeah.
Mike Shield's all over the Go Comics.
They got a lot of funny stuff. They got new people coming in like Dana Simpson and some really funny new cartoonists and really diverse voices. I like it a lot. Yeah.
And in addition to being a bajillion things at the exact same time, Jason, you're also the vice president of the Cartoonist Association.
Yeah, National Cartoonist Society. Yeah.
National Cartoonist Society.
Yeah.
Which is like, is that the Reuben Awards?
That's the Reuben Awards, yeah.
That's a big deal.
I mean, it's a big organization.
All of these cartoonists get together and put on tuxedos.
Yep.
And a lot of them never leave their homes, except for this one event a year.
Yeah, we rent tuxedos.
Many of them are tuxedo T-shirts.
Yeah. I mean, it's different than what it used to be. It did used to be this big, like since 1946. It's been doing so.
Wow.
And that goes all over. You got like the Milt Kniffs and all those guys, and Schultz. All those guys. But it started out as a lot of like editorial cartoonists and comic strip guys, just basically just a bunch of old white guys. But these days it's a lot more different. Like it's a lot more, we've got webcomic cartoonists and animators and a lot of people who do lots of different stuff. So it's not so much like a bunch of guys dressed up like penguins. Now we still do black tie, but it's a lot more diverse these days. Yeah, but it's great. It's a lot of fun.
It brings in a lot more personalities.
I think every personality that's there is the same in one way or another, in the way that, when you meet another comedian, you immediately have a shorthand with them where you just have that simpatico. All the cartoonists, when we get together, we all, whether we know each other or not, we all just have that thing.
You get it.
But we all have our different personalities in that, like, someone might be a gag cartoonist and then the other person might do, like, caricatures.
Right.
But we all have that cartooning thing. We all have that thing. And so when we get together, we do this thing, so like the Rubens weekend, which is every Memorial Day long weekend, we do like a conference and a bunch of panels and then a big awards night, on the Saturday night. And, it's like any organization. You just, hand out awards for the different categories and we have a lot of fun. This year we changed it up a bit. We're doing a festival. So more like not Comic-Con, but more like a festival-style programming.
So more panel discussions, stuff like that.
A lot of that
guests,
stuff.
Special guests.
Yeah, we've got like Bob Mankoff. And,
Bob Mankoff's going to be talking about cartoon collections.
Yeah, Pat Burns and Mort Gerberg.
Pat Burns?
Yeah, Pat's going to be. He's doing his own panel. It's going to be huge. You got to come. It's going to be great.
He does a lot of Weekly Humor stuff now.
He's really funny. I love his stuff.
When he submitted, I got it, and he emailed because Bob Eckstein, I think, had recommended. And I got it, and I was like, wait, this guy's like old school big time cartoon.
He's a pro.
This guy's a big time pro.
Yeah.
And I sent it to I wrote to Kit, and I was like, Kit, this guy, and he's like, whoa, that guy's big. And I was like, I can't believe this guy's going to be in Weekly Humor. And then he sent a bunch of stuff, and like his style has that throwback, but with like a modern joke.
Totally.
Yeah,
but it's also like you can pick it a mile away. It's a distinctive style that you go, oh, that's a Pat Burns cartoon.
Yeah,
and he did. How these days, this is a little inside baseball. The New Yorker kind of has a daily cartoon now.
Yeah.
And when it started doing that, I think it was under Bob Mankoff's sort of era of the New Yorker. It would be the same person every day. It'd be David Cypress. It'd be Pat Burns. It'd be something, and they'd do like 6 weeks.
Would it be
every
like
day.
Gregory?
Maybe.
Gregory? Is it David Gregory?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I wasn't doing the daily back then.
You know who was a biggie that I haven't heard from in a long time is that Matt Diffie.
Oh, he kind of stopped doing.
Did he stop doing cartoons?
He's out in L.A. now. Yeah.
Man, he had the coolest style.
Ah, love his
It was
stuff.
like a pencil sketch, but it was like always perfect.
He did a great collection. If anyone loves cartooning who's listening, what are the odds? He did a great thing.
They don't leave their houses, so...
The Rejection Collection.
Oh, I love the Rejection Collection.
So that was Diffie's idea.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
My favorite one from that book is, I think it might have been a Mick Stevens or some... I'm sorry if I'm screwing this up. It's a guy holding a sign saying, "Please help, asshead." And he's got an ass for a head. And it's just like, you could never run that in the New Yorker.
Yeah.
But it looks so absurd and silly. Every time I see it, I laugh, and it's in the Rejection Collection. And I have that book. I look at it all the time. It's so funny.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And Diffie was the brainchild behind that. He's a funny, funny guy.
He had a thing forever ago, and he was trying to get people to sign up for his e-newsletter.
Yeah, right.
And if you signed up for his e-newsletter, he would send you an original drawing.
Yeah. That
And-
dried up pretty quick.
I got one.
That's awesome.
I think I was like number 60-something or whatever, and it took like a long time to get your drawing, but I got it in the mail. It's signed. It has like a
That's so
certificate, and I have it on my wall.
I love that.
It's an angel in the corner. Face. It was like your back. His back is to you, and he's taking a smoke break.
That's great.
It was just like really simple.
Diffie always has great ideas. He actually has a really big project coming up. I don't know how public it is, so I won't say what it is, but it's a really big project, and it's exploring... He's such a great writer. He's such a great comedic mind. And if you've seen him at Diffie Cartoon, you get the kind of brain that he has. I mean, he was so prolific.
I hope he hears this. I hope Diffie is tuning in and listening to us talk about him for no reason on a podcast about Jason Chatfield.
Sorry, I'm deflecting is what I'm doing. Yeah. No, he's fantastic. He's one of my all-time favorites, yeah.
And so you live in New York now.
Yes.
You're from Australia.
Yeah, that's what
And
that
when
is.
did you move? When did you make the big leap, the fleeing, if you will?
When did I flee to this wonderful wasteland
Yes.
of Trumpism? It's funny because I used to come over for about a month at a time, way back, starting in like 2009. I used to come over for the Rubens, of all things.
Yeah.
And then I'd just stay for a month and do stand-up in New York. So, and I'd do like spots and shows and bar shows and mics and whatever I could get.
Right.
And then as I built up that sort of, I guess, a network and a bunch of people who would, pay me to work, I finally got a green card and moved here in 2014. So 5 years. Yeah.
So that's not long at all.
No, I'm still pretty fresh off the boat.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a long boat ride. Yeah.
Are there a lot of differences that you've acclimated to?
Sort of. I mean, as far as comedy goes, I threw out literally 7 years worth of material when I moved here, and I started again.
Totally different.
Yeah, I did a Seinfeld in comedy. I just threw out my act and started from scratch.
Yeah.
Because everything I was doing, there was two parts to it. I was doing comedy in Australia since about 2007, and I built up an act in like a couple of hours, and that was good, but then when I moved here, none of it really resonated.
Right.
And some of it did, some of it didn't, but it was getting old anyway. I was getting
Too many
tired
jokes about, marsupials.
yeah, dingoes
things.
eating babies,
Right, exactly.
crocodiles. So I just threw it all out. I was kind of ceremonial about it. About this, I'm like, there's too many differences between what people laugh at here and what people laugh at in Australia. And so I had this book. I mean,
Are they dirtier?
a little bit? Yeah, I mean, the C word's kind of a term of endearment there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot. That's like in Australia and in... Would that be like just a lot of UK?
UK as well a
Yeah.
bit. It's very derivative of UK comedy.
Yeah.
So you've seen Jim Jeffries. I mean,
Exact-
it's
yeah,
probably
absolutely.
the best illustration.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
I'm not going to swear on air, but it's one of those things
You can
that
swear. It doesn't matter.
really...
but-
Well, his gun bit was great. It works without swearing.
Yeah.
But it's made even funnier by the way that he... Just the way that he is, the way
Right.
that he talks. And that kind of comedy, Jim Jeffries is a singular comedian. Not all Aussie comics translate as well as he does.
Right.
So I threw out my book. I was in a hotel bar in the Lower East Side in Ludlow Street. I took my book of jokes that I took with me everywhere for 7 years, tore out all the pages, threw it in the toilet with the cover and everything, and then flashed it, and then the water rose up
Yeah.
And it got high. I was like, oh, great. And then the water went like purple from all the ink.
Yeah.
And I flushed it again. And then it overflowed with all the page. And it ran out. And the next day I came back and there was like tape over the toilet. I broke the toilet.
Broke it, yeah.
With my material. So I started with nothing. I had nothing to fall back on. And then I just went out every night, 4 or 5 sets a night, mics, whatever I could get.
Yeah.
And just, worked up new material. And that was for 4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
And you're pretty active on the stand-up scene now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I sort of did all
You do a lot
things.
of QED stuff?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, do QED and
you know what I missed
show,
that I really wanted to see was the Union Hall Picture This show. I live right two streets down from there, and I was just out of town.
Yeah.
That was just this past Saturday.
Yeah, that's right.
And I missed that. And tell me, what's that about?
Picture This. I started doing that back in 2013.
Okay.
So it sort of started out as like a festival show where, you'd follow these festivals around. There's lots of comedians. And then they'd just get a couple of animators, a couple of cartoonists to draw what the comedians are talking about. And it would project behind them on stage.
Okay.
And then it became this real, it really caught on. And so then they started just doing their own standalone shows in LA and New York. And it's such a funny idea because cartoonists and comedians kind of all think along the same way. They know what funny is.
There's a gag.
Yeah, there's a gag.
There's always a punchline.
And the joke is king. Like you always have to, you know what's funny. And so now every month usually at Union Hall, they get like 5 comedians and 5 animators. And the animators are from all over. They're from like TV and TV animation, Netflix, Comedy Central, and cartoonists from Mad and New Yorker. And then they get like A-list comedians to come in. Like I was drawing for Reggie Watts. That was really cool.
That's awesome.
This last Saturday I was with Mike Kaplan, who's hilariously
He's very
funny.
Yeah.
You've had him on your show, right?
He has not yet. I'll book
okay.
him. I need to book him. I've seen him so many times.
Yeah. He's really good.
He's so funny.
One of my favorites. And so it's great because when you get to draw for I was drawing for him.
He's very cerebral and smart.
Yes.
Like everything's very just like intellectual.
I love that. Yeah.
I've seen him do comedy at another friend's show where the crowd was dumb. And he hates a dumb crowd.
Well, he
because it doesn't work, and he's just like
he's alone on stage.
It's like, oh, you people are such idiots.
I love that. Well, because but he's not doing it in a malicious way.
No,
he's the fool on stage now, trying to speak to a room of people who don't get him. Yeah, and it's hilarious because he just kind of buries himself in it.
Yeah.
That's so funny to watch a comedian try and dig their way out of a gig like that. I've seen him do that, and I was dying laughing. I was hosting a show 2015, 2016, at the Producers Club in Times Square. And he got up, and it was one of those crowds, and he started going, well, you guys aren't, you're not really going for the cerebral stuff these days. How about this? Punched a guy in the face the other day. No? Okay.
I have some balloon animals.
But it was just so funny to watch. And then he also, because his name is spelled M-Y-Q, Mike. And so just before I brought him up, I'm like, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Meek? And he's like, yeah, it's Meek. Bring me on as Meek. I'm like, okay. And so I called him Meek Kaplan. He's like, you idiot, it's Mike.
He set you up.
He set me up. But yeah, he was great. So Picture This, Long Way Around, is really, really funny. They're doing an all-female show, I think, next month, which is great. So all-female animators, all-female comedians, and they always book a great show.
Yeah.
I think it's picturethisShow.com.
That sounds
and
like fun.
Social, yeah.
There's a lot of fun New Yorker cartoonists that live in New York that I haven't gotten to see. I know that Ellis Roosevelt does a live show, I think, that I haven't seen. He seems like a really good...
He's the best.
He's funny. And he's so talented.
Ellis is one of these guys who every time I see his work, I want to cut off my hand. I'm like, why am I even bothering?
Yeah.
He's a great fact checker. Like I have a podcast with a friend of mine, Scott Dooley, and we come up with New Yorker cartoons.
Yes, it's called "Is There Something in This?"
Yes, right.
Yes.
And very often, Ellis will text me after hearing the episode and go, "Oh, by the way, Larson did that one." Or, by the way, yeah, Jason Katzenstein did something similar. So he's our fact checker. Like unofficially, we call him Ellis Facts Rosen, and we mention him at least once an episode in one way or another. Usually because he did a great version of a cartoon that we're trying to work out. And he has that kind of ability to grab an idea and just shake it and just find from every angle, just find something really funny about it.
Did you see his Play-Doh and Work Dough cartoon?
Yeah, with a spot of color.
That was so funny.
That was last week's magazine. I was dying laughing. And
it was perfect. It was so simple.
It was
and
so great.
funny.
How many times do you think someone's pitched a Play-Doh cartoon?
Yeah,
to the New
so
Yorker?
for the people listening who haven't seen, there's a cartoon. There's a boy playing with Play-Doh, and the Play-Doh is in color. He's in color.
Yeah.
And then there's a man, the father, next to him, and it's called Work Dough, and it's
Yeah.
this gray, and it's just like a block, and he just looks sad.
He's got like lines under his
Yeah.
eyes. His tie is loosened. He's in a
It's a great
bedraggled
cartoon.
suit.
So funny.
And you immediately get it.
Yeah.
There's no like
Yeah,
work to get it.
Yeah, there's no like I have to figure out any. No, there's no cues. You don't have to get
So
it.
funny. Yeah, and so Ellis J. Rosen. So I think he's at Ellis J. Rosen on Instagram. He's
Yeah.
really, really funny. There's some really good other cartoons like Amy Kurzweil, Hilary Campbell is great. Hilary Fitzgerald Campbell.
Sarah Lautman.
Lautman, yeah.
Lautman.
Slautman is her Instagram.
Yeah. She's great.
Obviously, Will McPhail.
There's tons.
There's so many good cartoons.
And do you guys all hang out in New York?
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
you go up to the Society of Illustrators and do functions and things.
Not so much a society anymore.
You get kicked out of the society? Did you? You got banned?
Yeah, someone drew on that that big painting above the bar, graffitied it.
Well, I tried going to a thing. I think it was a New Yorker cartoon. I think I saw you in line and you got in. I did not get in.
right.
That was like over the summer.
It was the Women in Cartooning New Yorker panel.
Right.
And so I went to the second one that they held about a month later, and I got into that.
Okay.
But yeah, that was that. And then I think Liza Donnelly was like streaming it on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
There were people literally down the street, like Peter Cooper and people trying to get in.
No one could get in.
Yeah, and Cooper's like a huge cartoonist. And I'm like, well, if
He's
you can't
huge.
get in.
He just he sent me like 5 cartoons for Weekly Humorist.
Great.
So those are going to run soon.
He's so funny. He does Spy vs. Spy in
Yes.
Mad Magazine. He's
Spy
so
versus
funny.
Spy.
Love that guy.
It's amazing.
He actually said something really interesting to me at the Cartoonist Christmas party. We had like 5 seconds together, and in that 5 seconds, he imparted something really interesting. He said when he was starting out in like his 20s, when he was like at SVA or whatever, he was put onto panels and things like that to talk about art and illustration and cartooning. And he said he barely knew that much about it, but he was so like hyper verbal about like verbose and would say anything, would talk it up. And he said the more he learned about being an artist, the less he says about it now.
Yeah.
Because he just feels like, the more I find out about it, the more I realize the less I know. Which, if I'm any indication, that means I know nothing.
Nothing.
So.
Talk all the time.
But he's so good. And he's been doing it for such a long time. He's built for it, yeah.
On top of doing, you do Mad, and you do the New Yorker, and you do the stand-up, and
Yes.
then you're also in the, is it the Selsun Blue commercials? And you play a character named Dan Druff. Yeah. D-A-N Druff. Dan Druff. And he's like this incredibly annoying person that is bothering people on like first dates and stuff, right? Like you're just
daily life.
and you're covered. You're wearing like a white tuxedo, and everything's dusty with dandruff, and you have white hair and white face. You look kind of like a ghost.
Yeah, I do whiteface.
Like a very albino person.
Yeah, they actually got some blowback on that from the albino community.
They did?
Really? Yeah, the Society of Albinism or whatever it was got up in arms about it, saying, "Why are you depicting a horrible bodily function as an albino?" and his whole thing. Which I get it, but that's not intent. I think matters as well. But yeah, so I had to bleach my hair for that.
Really? That was real?
That was real. I bleached my hair for that. It took 5 hours in the chair. Burned my skull.
Wow.
Doing like shots of scotch to try and keep myself.
And it all grew back okay?
It took 9 months to grow back.
Really?
They dyed it back within 24 hours to some vague, like appropriate, like a approximation of what it was, but it went red.
Oh,
and I was like, well, I don't have red hair.
Because it stripped everything out of your hair.
I did the eyebrows as well. I did bleach my eyebrows.
Really?
Yeah. So I just shot 2 more before Christmas. They're coming out this month. But in that one, they painted my hair instead.
Okay.
Way better.
Way better.
Yeah. It was a 2-day shoot.
That's exciting. You're like a spokesman.
Well, yeah, they just, Head and Shoulders just hired Sofia Vergara, so they're panicking. That's the competition.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So now I got to, I don't know.
Pretty even.
Yeah,
yes,
right?
me.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
So how many spots is that?
That's 3 TV spots, but then there's a whole bunch of social media spots and stuff and extra stuff that I did for that. Yeah. It's fun. It's just like a
That's
side hustle.
exciting.
It's the perfect crime because no one recognizes me.
No, it's very hard.
I've been in sports bars, watching games, and then it comes on all the time.
Well, no one's gonna. I mean, you're not wearing any of the white
Exactly,
stuff,
and I don't look like that
Not at all.
And so people, I'm looking around like
No one
no one recognizes.
No.
No one cares. It's great.
And I mean, man, they could have done like a Super Bowl ad. Wouldn't that have been good?
They were talking about it.
Really?
They were, but the buy was too big. The
It's
spend,
really a lot.
the spend was insane. Like,
And all they end up doing is like shitting all over your commercial. After
Yeah.
everyone's like, this wasn't as good as it should have been.
I feel like, did you see the commercials?
I thought the one with Harrison Ford was
That was pretty good.
cute.
Yeah, that was
When
all
he's
right.
yelling at the dog.
I just love the dog.
Dog was cute.
If you listen to my podcast, all I talk about is dogs talking. I just love the idea of animals talking. Especially dogs. Dogs are just inherently funny.
Yeah, dogs are funny.
Inherently funny creatures. And that's one of those things that I saw that in the ad. I was like, the dog's talking to Alexa.
There has to be at least one talking animal commercial every Super Bowl.
Oh, I'm
Right?
pretty sure that's in the contract.
And then the one I liked, what did I like? I liked Harrison Ford. And I liked, I guess that was it.
Yeah, the anniversary one was pretty good. Like when the gala where they're like,
Oh
jumping
yeah,
out.
the
That
football
that
one was
pretty
good.
Fun.
That's fun.
Everything else was just so apocalyptic and like robots are going to take over the world.
Oh yeah, that's what I noticed too. I
Babyface
noticed
robot.
there were at least two ads that were making fun of artificial intelligence, like shitting on it, like you know. We're better than you. I'm like, It seems like we're very afraid of robots.
That's the tone because everyone went the same direction.
Yeah, everyone's just like, we're better than you, robots. It's like, they're going to turn on you.
But then there's
it's like we're expecting it to happen.
commercial with a dog ordering food and using AI and assistance. And it's like, well, what do you... Yeah, this is inevitable.
Like, we're sad that the robots are easily going to take over, and they're going to look at this evidence as like, well, we should probably enslave you.
We'll take Harrison Ford first.
Yes, absolutely.
Somehow the AI has an American accent. We'll take Harrison Ford.
At least.
Yeah.
When you're doing the Ginger Megs,
Yes,
and
the
that's a
comic strip.
daily comic strip,
That's right, yeah.
and that's syndicated all over the place, and you write and illustrate that.
Yes, that's right.
So how many? I mean, do you do a bunch and then have them ready to go?
Yeah, I do. I do a
Every day you don't wake up and do one cartoon.
Wouldn't that be a life? Wouldn't that be great?
I feel
If
like
that was
that's
my only job.
Yeah.
I like the idea that people think that's what it is because they're
I
like,
do.
oh, this guy's got it figured out.
That's what I think.
That's
when
not
I would
it.
wake up and read Garfield.
Yeah.
I would think Jim Davis last night drew this cartoon, and that was his day.
That's what I used to think as well.
And then he would mail it to King Feature Syndicate in a box.
gets there that afternoon.
They'd open it and they'd put it in the newspaper.
Yeah, no, that's
So
what
what's
I
the
thought.
process of doing that?
Well, it's basically, and this is going to sound silly, but I've been doing it 07, so what is that, 11, 12 years? Just over 11 years. And in that time, I've figured out what my process is in writing. It's 6 dailies and a Sunday strip.
Okay.
So 6 3-panel strips that go in the daily in color, and then a big Sunday 3-deck half page.
Yeah.
So to write those and keep them all consistent and keep the flow and the tone and the jokes kind of in the same vein, I run a bath, and then I have this thing that sits over me, and I sit...
That's like old school.
Yeah.
When people would like do work while bathing.
It's very Dalton Trumbo, yeah.
It's very Dalton Trumbo.
And I stumbled onto it by accident.
Have you dropped things into the bath?
Oh, yes. It's not
Is everything
good.
waterproof?
Well, I have a waterproof notepad.
Okay.
And I have, waterproof like neck pillow
Don't you
thing.
get all like wrinkly?
I do. Yeah. But so that's also like a timer for me as well. I know it's been too long if I start getting wrinkles. I'm like, quick, keep writing. You're going to wrinkle up.
So how do you do that? I mean, like you write the jokes.
I write 12 at a time.
Okay.
And so that's
and
2
they're gags?
weeks.
Just quick gags?
They're gags. They're 3-panel gags. It's set up, beat punch. It's kind of, and you can tell a story arc over like 6 days. But yeah, so I write them all at once. And I actually have this thing. My wife came up with this
Every
idea.
week you do this?
Every week, every Sunday.
So Sunday is the day?
It's Sunday is the day I write these, yes.
So if something is happening socially on a Sunday,
I have to say, listen,
you can't do it, or does it blow your entire week if you have to move your schedule?
It annoys me because it's a ritual, it's a routine, and when you're a creative person, having that structure helps.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the John Cleese lecture about creativity is having a start and an end time really helps, like creativity within constraints. So it does get annoying when someone's like, hey, come over for lunch. I'm like, nah, that's when I write my cartoons.
I'm going to be soaking in the bath.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the essential ingredient. Once I've done 6, and let me make this clear, this was my wife's idea. It was really to keep me in the bath and out of her hair, is that I tap 3 times on the bath and she brings me a glass of scotch.
Oh, boy.
So I call it Scotch Bath Sunday.
Nice.
All right. And so then I write the next 6 with a drink, and it's like a nice little carrot and stick thing.
Yeah.
You know. And so by then I draw them up, throughout the week, and then I color them, and then I send them all at once. And then it's in about 34 countries. So they translate it into different languages. They edit it. They change some of it. They make sure they do the pre-press right, because the newspapers lay them out like weeks ahead.
Right.
So I have to have them all ready. And and that goes out. So the syndicate sends them all out.
Because back in the day, it would be a cartoonist, it would be a colorist, and it would be a letterist.
That's right, a letterer, yeah.
And do you do everything now?
I do everything now. There's no more
That's crazy.
scope. I mean, you'd never make any money if you were breaking up the money that even now, like, so I took it. It's a legacy strip, so it's 98 years old. So,
and how did they? I noticed that you're the 5th cartoonist to be drawing this.
Yeah, yeah.
So there have been, and it's obviously changed throughout the years the way
Quite
it's
a
looked
lot, yeah,
since
yeah.
1921.
Yeah, good memory.
And how did you change the cartoon when you took it over, or did you pretty much keep it going the same style?
Well, I kept it going for a while, the same. It started in 1921, a guy called Jimmy Banks, and then he did it until 52, and then they had about a year's worth of strips to run. A guy called Ron Vivian took it over in 1953 and pretty much kept it exactly the same until 73. Then a guy called Lloyd Piper took over when Ron died, and then he did it for 20 years and kind of brought it forward a bit, but it was still just a Sunday strip. And then by 83, this guy called James Kemsley took it over when Lloyd Piper died. And he really modernized it. He turned it into a daily strip as well as a Sunday strip. He did it in color. He introduced some like new characters and some new sort of elements to it that were a bit more modern. Mm-hmm. So that made it more accessible to an international audience, and it made it more accessible to more papers and more readers. It wasn't so like Sydney-centric. And then when I took it over, unfortunately, Kemsley passed away, and he asked me to take it over a few days before he died.
Really?
Yeah, it was a pretty horrible way to inherit that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He was a mentor of mine. He really helped me out and taught me, when I was early 20s, I was trying to figure out how to be a cartoonist.
Yeah.
And he was the guy to kind of teach me. And so at that point, I didn't want to change it because I was like too scared that the papers would find an excuse to drop it if I changed it too much. Since then, I very slowly, gradually, it's like the sun moving. You don't quite notice it.
Right.
But very gradually just changing the style a little bit, changing the dialogue, the vernacular a bit. And also, I've just introduced 3 new characters for 2019, which is because it's an all-white cast. And in 2019 in Australia, that just doesn't fit. And in 1921... pretty much that was that's the audience.
Yeah.
But now there's an Indian kid, and then there's I think we've got an Aboriginal girl in there now. We've got a Malaysian Australian girl. We have we've got interesting characters who actually have good backstories and who are a bit more culturally diverse and so that's. I've changed it in that way. That's probably the biggest change I've made is adding those characters.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a necessary part of evolving something like a 100-year-old comic strip to
What's
keep it
the background
going.
of the character? What does the character do for a living?
He's like an Australian version of Dennis the Menace.
Okay, so is he a boy?
He's a boy, little redheaded kid called Ginger Meggs, and he kind of gets into trouble, gets into mischief, and he's always kind of getting into trouble at school and.
And how old is he?
He's like 11, 12.
And he'll never age.
He'll never age. He's a Peter Pan.
Like a Bart Simpson type.
Right. He's very much like Bart Simpson, but he predates him by about 80 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny because Dennis the Menace, I think, was about 30 years after Ginger Meggs, but he perfectly typified that same kind of character, but the difference with Ginger Meggs is he's more of an Aussie larrikin character. Like a larrikin is a like a mischief maker. That's like an Australian word for mischief maker. And he really kind of embodies that whole Australian ethos of just, punching up.
That's a lot
stick
of
it to the man.
That's a lot of plates for you to be spinning.
Sure, yeah, but
how do you handle all that? That's tough.
Good time management.
If you miss something, it's like boom.
Yeah, there's a lot of
plates. You miss a day.
Yeah,
that's a lot of.
It is.
You have a lot of different people expecting stuff from you.
That's true. But
always. How are you here right now talking to me? You have a million things to do, Jason.
You don't have time for my calendar.
You don't have time for this garbage.
I schedule everything in. There's actually, people ask that now, and I think about it, I'm like, well, what else are you doing with your day? Like, I love cartoons. I love what I do. I'm very lucky to love what I do, and do what I love. But I set times for things and then I just do them at those times. And I know that procrastination, I've dealt with that in the past a lot. But when you know that you've got these other things to do, you just get them done. Like, it's that old thing of, if you want something to get done, give it to a busy person. Yeah. They'll just do it. They'll just get it done.
Just get it off my plate.
That's kind of what it is.
Get it off my plate. That's how I am.
I do the strip. I have a process for that. And as part of a series of habits that I have, I do the daily cartoon for the New Yorker with Scott. So I'm sort of...
so how does the New Yorker process work?
The New Yorker, you have to submit... You get up, you read the news of the day.
Emma
Allen at the New Yorker, yeah. And so you have to send in some roughs by about 9 a.m.
Okay.
And that's on stories, news of the day, news of the morning, whatever the news cycle is. And then they'll tell you by about 10-ish if they want to buy it, at which point you have until noon to draw it up and send it. If they don't buy it there, this doesn't always happen, but sometimes I'm like, well, I wonder if Mad will have a nibble at this.
That's exactly what everyone else does.
Because Mad is in California now, and they don't wake up until they don't get into the office until about midday New York time.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah. 9 a.m. California time. So at that point, they're getting into the office going, all right, what's here? So it's not that they get the dregs, it's just that they get what we didn't sell.
No, they get the dregs, and then I get the stuff that Mad rejects. I do. Like Ivan Ehlers, who's been doing Mad, and he's been doing New Yorker
really
stuff.
Funny. I like
he's
him.
Amazing. He's so talented. He's so funny and sharp, and he's a nice guy. I went out to L.A. for work, and I hung out with him.
Oh,
and
cool.
He's a fun guy.
Cool.
He's a cool dude.
I don't think we've met, but
I'm not
I know
a cool
his stuff
dude,
really.
but he's cool.
Neither of us are cool.
He's like a legitimately authentic California cool dude. He's just like he always says, "Hey, that's smooth."
He says man. That's smooth,
and he can get away with it. Like,
that's amazing.
He can say things, and he's just a cool guy.
I love that.
And we hung out in Hollywood. And he's just we were playing pool.
That's cool. Did he play pool? Sink the black, and then go. That's smooth.
Yeah. Yes.
And then drink a beer or something. Wow, that's awesome.
He's just a cool guy.
This guy's a hero.
Yeah, he was. If
I can't wait to meet.
Because he'll be probably at your thing. Your
NCS
thing
Fest.
is in California.
So 16th through the 19th of May. Yes, he'll probably be there. Yes. Yeah. But he's quite prolific too. He's in everything. He's popping up everywhere.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
And
good style. Yeah.
Is the process for Mad? Is it similar where you're just sending it to an editor and you're pitching? Do you pitch sketch? Because you pitch sketches.
Yeah, I pitch roughs. Yeah. So I have this idea, and what I'll do is
because you do stuff also with Alexis Novak.
Yes, she's great.
She's very funny.
She's hilarious. Yeah, we've done a bunch of stuff together. Where I think we have the same comedic.
She's very sharp
instincts. Yeah. So she'll pitch an idea, and I'll be like, that works. I can see how to make this. Visual. We're working on something literally today. We're always working on something together. She's great. She does stuff for Mad. She does stuff for Weekly Humorist, and
I think Reductress.
Yeah, and a couple other things as well. And again, she's a
McSweeney's probably.
She's a yoga instructor as well. And that's the thing. You're like, how do I do all the things? There's no stand-up during the day.
Yeah.
So I do stand-up at night. And, so the cartooning is during the day. She does the yoga stuff, and then she does the comedy stuff on the side. Well, not on the side. She just balances it out. So I work with... So there's a comedian, an Australian comedian called Scott Dooley, who I like to write with, not for everything, but for a lot of things, because it's good to get a second pair of eyes on something, on an idea... Because they might take it in like a lateral direction that you wouldn't have thought of in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, there's something here and I can't quite make this work. And sometimes it just takes one other pair of eyes to go, oh, yeah, it's that. Put Pelosi here and she's doing, like what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say you develop a shorthand between yourselves. Like a writer's room. It's like a punch-up. It's punch-up. Punching up a joke is such an interesting process, and it's something I've been doing for so long that it's part of my DNA, and it's part of his too. So we will both pitch very frequently. We'll text each other throughout the morning for ideas for the daily cartoon, for the New Yorker, or for Mad, or for anything, and just sort of rough it up and then send it, and you pitch it via email, and then they go, yeah, we want to buy this one, draw it up for us and send it to us by noon. Yeah. And then it goes up on the site, and that's kind of the process, yeah.
And I think maybe it was in the summer when you did the Guaranteed Delivery show. And I think that was around the time that you did a cartoon for the New Yorker. They got like a ton of flack from you.
Did, yeah.
And I thought it was the most simplest cartoon.
Yeah.
And it was, the premise was, it was two gyms. It was two gym entrances, right? And
That's right.
And one was gyms where everyone was taking like selfie photos of themselves.
Yeah, it was
and one was a gym where you were just working out.
Right.
And
that was the joke.
That was the joke.
The joke was that, because I would go to the gym every day. At that time, it was summer, so I was going to the gym. And I noticed that everyone just sits on equipment and stares at their phone. They just scroll through Instagram. They're not really exercising. They're going to the gym, but they're not going to the gym.
Right.
They're just sitting there. And so I made that observation. I pitched it as a joke to the New Yorker, and they were like, great, we love that idea. And what we discussed was having the execution. And it was, again, this is one that I worked on with Scott, where, I brought it up and I had a few different angles. And what it was on the left, it was a sign above the door saying, actually working out.
Right.
And then on the right, there was one saying, sit on equipment, scrolling through your phone.
Right.
So on the right-hand side, everyone in the gym is a guy. I put everyone as a guy. These guys sitting on I had an African-American guy and a regular Caucasian guy sitting on equipment, scrolling through their phone. The person walking in is a woman, but she's in the minority there. It's just her. And then on the left-hand side, we have an African-American woman and a Caucasian woman. No, actually an Asian-American woman, both working out. Like one doing deadlifts, another one doing lat pull-downs. And the person walking in is a guy. Yeah. So he's the least of... Anyway, I was called a lot of names, like a misogynist and a sexist and a piece of garbage and a lot of filthy words. And I was like, wait a second, just look at the cartoon. Look at it. And no one was looking at it.
Pro-women are actually the ones working out.
Exactly. And we discussed that. The editor and I were like, make sure that this stuff... Because otherwise, it's going to look like you're making fun of women being on their phones. And it is always the guys as well, to be fair, at the gym. Yeah. It's just a lot of guys on equipment with their phones. So I drew it that way, and it got a lot of flack. And everyone's like, yeah, but the foreground characters are all that matters. And I'm like, actually, that's not true at all. Yeah. Everything in a New Yorker, everything in a cartoon is there on purpose. Right. And if you didn't look past that first thing, that's on you. Yeah. And so it really blew up. It was a massive social media. It went viral. Reese Witherspoon weighed in.
What did she say?
She loved it.
Okay, good.
But then, other celebrities weighed in.
Because if Reese didn't like it, well, then I have to dislike it also.
Me too. I would have disliked it if she didn't like it. And so what happened? So the New Yorker put it on their New Yorker Cartoons Instagram, and then they put it on their official Instagram, the New Yorker Instagram, and it just went crazy, right? And they tagged me, because of course they did, and it went nuts. And I got a lot of hate follows, which is a new thing I just discovered.
People follow you because they dislike you.
Yeah, they troll through your thing and go through and comment and say horrible things. And I was like, you know what, that's fine. And I didn't engage. Yeah. I thought, don't engage. This is just part of, you put your art out there. You don't control the response. Yeah. But then what happened was, they went through... This is a new thing. I've been a cartoonist for 15 years. This is a new thing. They went through my feed and my Facebook and stuff and found my wife. And then they went to her social and then DM'd her saying, you should be ashamed to be married to such a woman-hating C-word. And all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, whoa. Wait, are you that's not feminine. What are you doing?
Yeah.
this is way out of line.
It's crazy.
And that's when I engaged. I was like, all right, I need to know what the hell, how you think this. And then you'd look on their page and then they just had these like confirmation bias bubbles.
Yeah.
Of just all these people going, yeah, right on. Like, and saying repugnant stuff.
People are mean and horrible.
The internet's, I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
The internet is not great
Not
sometimes.
nice. Very mean people.
And so, I mean, it was a lesson in, okay, this hyper catastrophizing thing is...
Yeah. It's like...
Yeah, you got to get used to it.
It's like if you become really popular...
Right.
You have to be prepared to be just like having horrible things said about you. It's almost like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be popular because I don't want the attention.
Well, I mean...
It's like it's not worth it.
It's almost not worth it. And the thing is, like, fame has never been anything that seems appealing to me. People are like, I want to be famous. I'm like, are you insane?
Right. I just want to be rich.
Yeah, what?
I don't
this
be
is why I'm a
famous at all.
cartoonist. A cartoonist doesn't have to put their face out there. They're just a name on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's the perfect crime.
Exactly.
You're famous without anyone having to know who you are. It's great. And that's why I always like cartooning. That sounds horrible. But what's interesting about this is, people feel engaged, and that's good. But the majority, if you go through the comments, the majority of people who did complain initially, other people corrected them and went, hey, look at the cartoon. Look at it again. And then, to their credit, they were like, oh, wow, yeah, I should probably not jump to conclusions before...
Because it's like a mob mentality.
Yeah, and it's a very loud minority of people who are being really horrible. But, of course, they're the loudest, so they you hear them the most.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting dynamic that cartoonists are now having to deal with. Other New Yorker cartoonists have got it as well, so we've discussed it.
Yeah.
And it's a part of the gig now, unfortunately, that people who have opinions about cartoons...
Well, the tough
will
thing
let you
about
know
it
about
is
it,
with social media, you're very accessible. It used to be like, if this like this cartoonist did something and he's in the magazine. It's like, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to like DM him by pushing a page in a magazine.
Yeah.
But now anyone can get a hold of you.
When I started doing newspaper comic strips, I was doing editorial cartoons before that.
For a newspaper in Australia?
In Australia, yeah. I was doing political cartoons. And if people didn't like something, they would write a letter to the newspaper.
Right.
And the editor would get it. And then they'd sometimes pass it on if it was like constructive. But you had to get a stamp, and an envelope. And then by the time you're like, am I really that upset? People never write in because they like something. They don't feel compelled to write a letter because they really love, boy, I really love today's Garfield. No one's doing that. They only do it when they don't like something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found that the most extreme real-world example that I can think of, even remotely, is I did an editorial cartoon back in Perth back in like 06, 05, something like that. And it was on a religious theme, and there was a pro-life group that didn't agree. And so they tracked me down, and they threw engine oil all over my white car.
What?
Yeah. They tracked it down, and so they
Did they set it on fire?
No, but it was but it was completely. I couldn't. It was in. It got in everything. All the seals. All the. It was ruined. So that was in direct response, and then they made it clear that hey, don't screw with us. I was like, well, that's not okay. But that's the closest thing that I can think of is like a real world version of the, a Twitter mob.
It's crazy.
A hate mob. And then the publication not backing you and saying, hey, you're fired, we're never going to publish you again. To the New Yorker's credit, they backed me.
Yeah.
They published it, so they stand behind it.
Have they ever taken anything down before?
No,
I wouldn't think so.
Even I think the only time they would is if something was like plagiarized, if it was found to be plagiarized. Right. I think that's the only time, because if they put it up, they stand behind it.
Yeah.
They did the due diligence on it, and they went, you know what? All right. We're going to put this out. Yeah. We know it's going to cause a shitstorm, but we're going to put it out and we're going to stand behind it. You're going to stand behind the writer, the artist, whoever it is.
Yeah. Your style, your art style is... You have kind of like... You'll go one way with very, very broad cartoon, and then you do also very realistic stuff. What's your art background? Like, you went to art school?
Oh God, no! I self-taught. I didn't study
art supplies.
Hey, look at you!
I got art supplies here for Jason Chatfield.
Hey, nice.
Now, is this kind of the kind of things you like? This are my favorite pens. Are these? These
I love those. I use those as well.
Papermates.
Papermate. Yeah, they're great. I love those.
And then this is kind of like a Sharpie that has a bit of a point.
Yeah.
It's a nice black.
Those bleed through a little bit on my paper. I find
they do.
They're not bad. Yep.
So I have paper here.
I have on my blog. I have like a shop talk section where I talk about the tools that I use. because I'm always trying new stuff because I find new pens on like Goulet pens or Jet pens.
I don't know how we're going to do a sample. I kind of want to do a sample.
Mm.
Can you do a sample of anything?
Yeah, sure. With Ginger Megs, there's already a style, so I kind of have to adhere to that style guide book thing.
Yeah.
And then on the New Yorker, I kind of do that by hand. I draw that in a different style. It's more of a New Yorker-y kind of style. And then for Mad, it depends. Sometimes they're like, hey, can you draw in the style of Warner Brothers for this joke? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And that's from a background of doing like freelance illustrating and having to basically just take whatever work comes in. You kind of just have to say yes and then figure it out later and go, yeah, I can do that. And then you end up learning to draw in a certain style. So that's it. Yeah.
We're on Instagram Live. I'm being multimedia.
Hello.
It's
Hi.
Jason Chatfield, everybody.
Who's listening on air and looking at Instagram
We are
Live?
everywhere.
Get back to work.
This is Talkward Live, and we're talking to Jason Chatfield. And if you're on Instagram, you're watching this. So hopefully this will work.
You're so multimedia, Marty.
So Jason is doing live drawing for us. And
I'm a classic New Yorker-y old dude. Don't you think for the longest time the New Yorker was just old white dudes?
Yeah, and they all wore the same kind of fun. They always had many layers of fabrics.
Oh yes, always.
They always had the waistcoat, and they always had. I think like my envisionment of what fancy decor is. It's based on New Yorker cartoons and Murder, She Wrote episodes.
Yes.
Like if Jessica Fletcher was in like a fancy mansion, it would always have like this very nice paintings with the gold frames and
that's right.
Chandelier type things, and like that's what my idea of absolute just decadence is.
Yeah, well, I think it was for a very long time.
I think it still might be.
And you got to remember that the New Yorker had an audience. Well, has an audience, but it has a new audience as well. Now it's not just the same audience that it was for 60 odd years. So they are, to their credit, they are adapting to the times and showing a lot more different kinds of people.
And you're drawing some fancy New Yorker. Oh, there's paintings now?
Yeah, I thought, if you draw,
it.
A fancy mansion, they always have like portraits of either themselves or favorite, like the grandfather, and he started the mansion, and then the farm was taken over by the aunt and she did it. She's the one in the study with the candlestick.
Everything's very Clue. Yeah.
Very
If
Clue,
you're fancy, it's like Clue. It's the movie Clue.
Yeah.
So you're self-taught. I didn't realize that. You're very good.
Lots of practice. It's one of those things. The more you do it, the better you get. It's just like it's the only thing I've ever done. It's the only skill I have. So the more you do it. That's all I did as a kid. I walked
So
around
you
with
do
a
very
clipboard and
loose
drew, yeah.
stuff, but then you also do very tight stuff.
Right.
You're very good at hands. That's how you can
big
judge.
compliment. Wow.
When you can judge an artist, you judge them on their ability to draw hands.
Right.
Because like a hand, I went to art. I studied art.
You did?
And I went to Syracuse for illustration.
Wow.
And it was like I was always kind of taught like a hand by itself is like a portrait in itself is each hand. Mm-hmm. And that was like one of the hardest things to do was hands. And
Can I tell you how I learned?
How do you draw hands, Jason Chatfield?
Okay, so in, I want to say 2011, so about, 8 years ago, I came to the US for a trip to the Rubens in Boston, and then afterwards I came to New York, and there was something called the Bunny Bash, which is Bunny Host, who does a bunch of comic strips like Howard Hughes and the Lockhorns and stuff like that. She has a big castle out in Long Island. And
cool.
And so there's a big party. There's a big cartoonist party there every June, rather. And nearby is the house of a cartoonist named Mort Drucker.
Oh, I did a phone interview with him.
No, really?
When I was in college at Syracuse,
wow.
you had to talk to somebody in your profession who is a professional and like interview them.
Right.
And I interviewed Mort Drucker.
That's so cool.
And I talked to him and I talked to his wife.
Oh, Barbara. Yeah, right.
And she talked a lot.
She does, yeah. I mean, he's not particularly verbose.
No. And it was fun. He was a legend. He's a legend. How old is he?
He's in his 80s for sure.
Okay.
Nearly 90s, I'd say.
He's very old.
Yeah, but I mean, he did all the movie parodies for Mad Magazine.
Forever.
He kind of
invented.
I
was a huge Mad.
Oh, me too.
Fan.
Totally.
And his stuff was amazing.
He's a very talented guy, but he has this I'd say two things about Mort, of two of many other things. But one, he invented the movie parody for Mad.
Yeah.
I mean, he really invented that style and theme and genre. But then his hands are the best hands of Jack Davis, of Tom Richmond, of anyone. So a guy called Adrian Sinnott, who was the chapter chair of the Long Island chapter of the National Cartoonist Society, he very generously took me to Mort's studio where I sat down with him, and he just sat and showed me how to draw hands.
So how do I draw a hand?
Well, okay, so...
This is the instructional part.
And here's an important note that he gave me. He said, a hand can be as expressive as the face. And if you look at his hands, he's absolutely right. You look at his Mad parodies, and his hands that he draws, they tell a story of emotion without you even to have to read the speech bubble. You get it.
Do you remember the Mort Drucker, the Godfather parody?
Of course,
and
the Oddfather.
It was when Sonny was getting shot.
Yeah,
and his body in
Because they did to
silhouette
that boy.
is being shot by, and it's his body like this.
The hands,
and
right?
The hands are out.
the clutched
hands,
Yes.
exactly. And this is the entire him getting riddled with bullets.
Do you know how many times
Yeah.
I've sat and tried to draw those hands? It's and I'm
Every
like, what
jo-
am I doing
every
wrong?
joint,
Yeah.
every joint means something.
So the articulation of each finger. So what I've drawn here, is basically I'll draw this one shape, right? And that's kind of the palm of the hand. That's like the open part, I guess.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you add the fingers. You add like that little loop there, that bump for the thumb is pretty important because that's going to determine how everything else fits in. And you've got this sort of crease there where the hand usually creases. Then you just add the fingers to that shape, and the little finger, the pinky, always comes off this side of that shape. And so then you round it out with that part of the palm.
Yeah.
And then where it connects to the wrist, this is what I couldn't figure out with Mort until very recently, is it's where it connects to the wrist that matters. So if you're looking at a hand that Mort draws, sometimes where it connects to the wrist is that's where it actually matters most. Not the knuckles, not the fingers, not the individual articulated joints of a hand. It's the actual connection to the wrist. That sort of stuff. I spend hours and hours looking at this stuff and trying to perfect it. And that's it's like comedy. It's like you keep trying to get better and better at it. And with cartooning, it's the same. You see someone's work and you just keep trying to not mimic it, but learn from it. Like Jack Davis always had, great feet and hands, and you remember he always had the shoe with the little bullet hole in it.
I used to only draw up businessman shoes, and they'd always have a hole in the bottom.
Yeah, they'd always have that thing at the bottom where it was like I don't know what that was. Tom Richmond still does it as an homage to Jack. He does the movie parodies for Mad now. But it has that, that
when I would see those Mad movie parodies and just some of the illustration work that Mort Drucker would do, and you would look at it and you'd say, God, that's so much work.
It looks like
God, that's so many panels.
But then you look at him work, and he just sits there with a board on his lap. It's not even a drawing board. He has like a desk and then a board that sits on his lap and a pacer pencil, like a little clicky pacer, and he just sits there and draws it. It just comes out, and he does it in pencil.
And his caricatures are so accurate, and he's able to repeat them so many times.
And he also does them from profile. Like he doesn't just do front on; he does the side, 3/4 view, and every time it's like. Do you know how hard it is to caricature someone from every angle?
Yeah, he gets it. He captures their exact personality.
Right.
And then he does it again and again and again and again in multiple pages.
Yeah. And then he gets the proportions right, and it still looks right. And then also, and he had good art direction as well. Like Sam Viviano was always great.
Sam Viviano was like my Mad Magazine hero. When I first got out of college, I moved here, and I would go to the Mad offices, and he would let me come up if I brought a box of donuts.
That sounds like Sam. That's great.
And he would let me come up, and I got to hang out, and I would hang out in the Mad office, and he would look at my portfolio, and he'd be very generous and nice. And
that's great. Wow.
I got some great feedback, and I had just it was back in the day when you would actually carry around a hard portfolio.
Of course,
You'd drop it off at different magazines.
Right.
You would have 2 portfolios. You drop one at each place at the mail Basically, they wouldn't let you in the real front door. You'd go to the deliveries front door, and then you would sign in and sign out your portfolio.
That's so funny.
So you'd have to have two, so you could go to two different places.
Right. That's another thing. Like, that's an age that doesn't exist anymore because we have portfolio websites and things like that and email.
Yeah.
But when you go and show your face, it does make a difference when they can put a face to the name.
Yeah.
And also,
it's harder to reject people to your face. I found that.
For some. I don't think John Ficarra had any problems rejecting people to their face.
If, when you go in, like if someone were to come in and pitch me cartoons, I'd have a harder time rejecting that cartoon if I was looking at the person who drew it.
I think if you did it every day, you'd build up an ability.
Yeah,
like Bob Mankoff did, Lee Lorenz. You'd have that way of doing it.
Yeah.
Going, not for me. The other thing with Sam Viviano is because he was an artist himself. So he's a great art director because he was already a great illustrator. And he still is.
Yeah.
He's still illustrating now.
He did great stuff. Before he was the art director, his stuff in Mad was great.
The Titanic parody. I think he did the, not Goodfellas, who's the Untouchables, I think he did. He did a ton of different things.
I used to draw like him. I mean, I would study Mad Magazine to learn how to draw the way I wanted to draw. Like I was taking art classes and learning how to do more like classical portraiture and stuff.
Yeah, right.
But then I really wanted to learn how to do like mad stuff.
Right.
So when I went to school, I was doing serious stuff, and then I morphed into comedy humor illustration. And then when I came to New York, I was a newspaper illustrator.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a long answer to your question. Is I read Mad Magazine to learn how to draw. I was self-taught in as much as I spent my pocket money on Mad.
Yeah.
And then just I tried to copy Mad.
So is it insanely fulfilling to be now amongst that group?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you.
Have you been in the print magazine yet?
Yes, several times now. Which is, I can't even tell you how surreal that is to me because that's.
Is that more of a multi-page? Like you'll get more of a spread?
No, it's
or is it
single panel. Single panel. I always wanted to be in Mad.
Yeah.
That's all I ever wanted, really. More than the New Yorker, in fact. Mad just meant more to me.
It means more to artists.
I think, to be not one of the usual gang of idiots. Like that's the regular guys, like Sergio and and Jaffe and those guys. But it just to be even like I went to the Mad offices in California in November in November, and they asked me to sign the whiteboard.
Yeah.
And the whiteboard is this big board in the Mad office that every published Mad artist has signed. Like all the greats, everyone. Jack, Mort, all those guys. And I signed it and I'm like, this is surreal. I've dreamed of this for forever, since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And to know that you're even remotely associated is insane. So that was a big life dream. And that only happened last year. I only got in last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Who's the other guy that's so good? Is it Anton?
Anton Emden.
Yeah.
Yes. He's done parodies. He's done everything.
He's good.
Speaking of Ivan, I think he and Ivan both have a lot of Jack Davis in them.
Yeah, they do.
In their like style. But they both have their own unique style, obviously, like amazing. But there's like some Jack-isms that I see in both of them that I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that. Because I can't draw like them. They're
Who's
incredible.
the guy? It's not Mort Drucker and it's not Jack Davis, but it was kind of a guy and everything would be floppy, like a shoe would flop.
Don Martin.
Don Martin, that's who it is. Mm-hmm. Don
All you had
Martin.
to say was a shoe would flop, and I knew it was Don Martin.
Shoes would flop, and he kind of had a wide. Everything had kind of like a wide jaw.
That's right. Duck Edwing actually did a lot of his gags towards the end, but Don Martin was so funny. The Don Martin collection that came out, I think, a few years ago, that's one of my favorite collections. The Sergio and the Don Martin are incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had so many good gags, so many good visual gags.
There's a lot of hidden stuff in there.
Yeah, layers. Yeah.
They would call it, what would be like comedy density is a term that another comedy writer has told me about. There was an old magazine called Army Man.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like a very dense comedy magazine where
That's
there's jokes, art, and you couldn't, there would be like 5 main jokes, and then there'd be like 20 subliminal jokes hidden in the background.
Well, it's like Mad, I guess. I mean, Mad.
There's little things always in Mad that were like you wouldn't notice, little cues.
Totally.
Like, I think I read one of your Ginger Mags recently.
Oh, yeah.
And on the side, there was like a little joke on the side.
We call that graffiti. Kemsley came up with that.
Okay.
50% of the people read the strip for the graffiti. 50% read it for the strip. That sort of jokes on jokes stuff. I love that stuff. That's why I love Mad. Mad, you can go back and read it. It's like watching an old movie, like a comedy movie, and seeing more stuff. Like, I love that about Mad. I love that about Viz. There's a magazine called Viz in the UK. It's like the UK version of Mad. And they always had a very densely comedic jokes on jokes on jokes. And, there's a lot of it, like, these days, like, The Onion is great.
Yeah.
Cracked Online is actually not bad these days. It wasn't a great magazine, but it's a pretty good website. There's so many different places that have that ability to pile the jokes on.
Yeah.
And I love comedians who have tags on stuff. Like, there's like Sam Morrill, Mark Norman, Joe List. They have these jokes that just keep growing. Gary Goldman has a lot of them where it's just one joke, but then there's a tag and a tag and a tag and a tag and a tag. And even like a little aside. And it just, you listening to it and it's laugh on laugh on layering laughs. And it's masterful. You're watching it going, how is he doing it?
That's when you have the crowd in the palm of your hand.
Totally.
And like anything you say is just more laugh, more laugh, more laugh. You're dying from just like one teeny little premise to start.
Yeah.
And then it just grows.
It's crazy. Yeah. I love that. I love watching that. That's what drew me to comedy in the first place. Like, apart from like my granddad was big on jokes, like it was always watching people master jokes. And it looked like a magic trick. I was like, how is he doing that? Like, you wanted to dissect it and figure it out.
Because you're controlling a room of people.
Which is a crazy thing.
Yeah.
This is a group of strangers who don't know each other, but you're going to try and get them all to agree on a thing?
Yeah.
That's a crazy idea.
And they don't know you.
They don't know you.
You're just getting up there, and all of a sudden they love you.
You're a stranger. They're strangers. They're there. I mean, they are there to laugh at you, but they're not just going to laugh. Like, you got to make them laugh.
Yeah.
And there's been shows like, I've been doing stand-up 12 years this year, and I've done so many terrible shows and bombed so many times. And then nowadays I do well more than I bomb. So, but I'm reminded that all those bombs, I learned how to figure out the crowd and how not to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
And how to figure out any room. Like, if I'm on the road and it's like a hostile crowd, or if it's a young crowd, an old crowd, a mixed crowd, a conservative crowd, like, you perform differently when you're in South Carolina versus when you're in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you got to read the room.
Yeah, you read the room, and that's a skill that you develop apart from writing material. That's a really important part of the job that you can only do by doing.
Yeah.
And basically failing a bunch.
A lot.
And then figuring it out and getting better at it, yeah.
Okay, you have to give me a very quick story because I've taken up too much of your time doing masterful art demonstrations.
I could talk about.
Look how great these are! Wow, these are gonna be great. I'm gonna sell them for tons on eBay.
Yay! That's my Jack Davis foot there. I did a Jack Davis with a hole in this. Awkward story. Okay.
Craziest thing to happen to you in America.
Ooh.
Versus, coming here from Australia.
Craziest thing to happen to me in America. A lot of crazy stuff has happened. I moved to America and got the end of Obama. That's what happened.
Oh, what a change.
I moved here. And I was like, it was hope change. Yes, we can. I got here, it was grabbing by the pussy. Something changed as soon as I got here.
Yeah.
And it was, I was like, all right, well, I guess this is the norm now.
What's the worst thing that's happened to you doing stand-up?
Worst thing that happened to me doing stand-up was... okay. So, listen, this is... I was doing a show at a place called V-Spot in St. Mark's Place. And I was hosting the show, and it was cold outside, I guess, and they were barking people in from the street. So that means, the one of the producers is standing on the street, saying to people, "Hey, come in, comedy here."
Is this the V-Spot in Brooklyn?
No, V-Spot in St. Mark's Place in Manhattan.
In Manhattan.
8th Street. And so he, the producer barked in a bunch of people, and I started, doing some jokes and trying to get the crowd on board, do a bit of crowd work, where you're from, what do you do? And then... getting some laughs here, but then in the middle of a setup, I hear this, and I was like, "What? Where did that come from?" And I look in you put your hand in the spotlight, and I looked, and it was this guy, like a homeless dude. He was just sitting in the front row, like just back from the stage, out of the light. And I was like, oh, he's asleep.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, oh, I'll just push on, and so I kept going, and then I did the joke, and then I was like, oh, God, all right. And then I had to draw attention to it. I was like, I made a joke about it.
Yeah.
All the audience is joking about it. And then I thought, all right, we're going to move on. We're going to keep, and I pointed to the bridge. I was like, can you wake him up? He's asleep. And so I wasn't going to bring the comedian onto that. I wasn't going to bring the comedian onto someone asleep. And so the producers come in and they're like trying to wake him up, and he's not waking up. And I was like, oh, is he unconscious? Like, they're trying to make it funny and light. Yeah. And then eventually we realized he's not waking up. This guy he's out. Yeah. He's out for good for the night. And so they literally had to drag him, lift him up, and physically drag him out of the room. This is like 3 weeks ago. And then all the audience, a lot of consternation, very, very upset people going, oh my God, this is horrible. That poor man. Yeah. And they're just dragging him out of the room. And then I'm like, so, who's ready to laugh? Hey, all right, your next comedian who's been on comedy, blah, blah, clubs and colleges.
Just know that if you by chance fall asleep for even a second, we will pick you up and throw you out.
Physically drag you from the room. And of course, the comedian who was about to come on staring at me. I can see the whites of his eyes. He's like, what are you doing? Don't bring me onto this. That's one of many horrifying stories of doing stand-up in Louisiana and Kentucky, Missouri, Alabama, Indiana, Ohio. Oh, I'll tell you one quick story. Story in Ohio. And it's not technically about me. I was on tour in Ohio in October 2016. I saw all the Trump-Pence signs. And, we did like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, Jersey. And this comedian that I was with got up at the Funny Bone in Columbus, Ohio. And he got
not the Chuckle Hut?
No, different chain.
Oh, okay.
Different guys. And he gets up, and it's kind of just a full college crowd at this point. It's like the 7 o'clock show they do too. There's 7 and a 9. And he gets up, and he's doing a guest spot right before me. And he gets up, and he grabs the mic, and between taking the mic out of the stand and putting the stand behind him, he goes, hey, guys. And just as he's trying to take the mic out of the stand, girl in the front, why did there have to be guys? Immediately. And then he's like, all right, are we doing this? Okay. And then he just, his set went in the toilet, and he just, and then, of course, the crowd are against every comedian now, because like, ugh, these guys are offensive. This sucks. And then, everyone was fighting to get the crowd back out of that. Yeah. But that was a few years back, and it's gotten considerably worse on the road since.
Worse?
Yeah, it's way more insane. Yeah.
Do you not want to go anymore? Like, do you like doing comedy in New York and not having to leave?
It's not about that. It's that I don't think my audience is out in those places. Like, I love them, and they're really great audiences, and they laugh, and I know, how to work those rooms, but it's like, they're not coming to see, they're not buying a special, they're not coming to see you, they're not bringing friends to... Yeah. Whereas in New York, I feel like I do have an audience that will come out to a live podcast, or like come and see me do stand-up or do a show. Or, they'll actually show up. Yeah. But I do like those. I like performing to them. But I'm doing less road this year and more clubs.
Bring them to you. Make them come to you.
That's the interesting thing. We're on a podcast right now. I never did podcasting before very recently. I was always, every comedian had a podcast, so I thought, I'm not going to do everyone has a podcast. I'll do everyone else's podcast. Right. And then I was coming up with New Yorker Cartoons with Scott, as I said, and he's got a radio background. And he was like, this would be a really good podcast. I was like, absolutely not. This is a dumb idea. 2 guys talking about a visual medium on a no, in an audio, no. That's no way that's going to work. He said, just do one and proof of concept. Let's see if it works. Yeah. We did one, and it went crazy. And now we've got thousands of listeners every month, which is absurd when we think about it. But we started doing live podcasts, and what we realized was we've built this audience of people who are coming to see us. Yeah. Rather than us having to go out to see audiences and try and convince them, hey, listen to what I'm saying. Going to clubs out in the middle of nowhere.
You don't know me, but... Yeah.
They're coming to you with a knowledge of, I know what I'm getting when I come to these guys. Yes. And I like hearing what they have to say. And so now we're doing live podcasts where we have a built-in audience of people who actually like what we're saying. You kind of play to a home crowd.
People like the multimedia. People like that.
I think so.
And they look at something that you've maybe done in the New Yorker or Mad Magazine, and they want to know the story behind how you got there.
Sure. I know I do.
Do you do live drawing at these at these shows?
Yes. Yeah, I hook up a Cintiq up to a big screen, and I have it like
That's
behind
awesome.
me. And so while we're coming up with the ideas, I'm drawing them live.
Yeah.
And we had to get, like last time we had a guest, we had Roy Wood Jr. from the
He's
from
great.
The Daily Show. And he's really funny.
Yeah.
He's great on his feet, quick thinker. And we had him do some like lightning round caption competitions and stuff. But he also like came up with this really funny idea about polling booths. And I was drawing it live, and we're like adding stuff to it as we went. And it's such a cool like thing to just create out of nothing.
Have you taken anything that you've created at a live show and then actually had it go on?
Yeah.
A New Yorker or Mad?
We saw one of the gags, I think, to Mad that we kind of pitched up and put together in the live podcast. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
audience interactions and stuff.
Yeah, and people like we take audience suggestions as
Yeah.
well, so people send in their suggestions, and then we kind of punch them up and figure out how to make them funny.
That's awesome.
Funnier. And so in the live ones, they literally pitch them live. We give them a mic and say, "Hey, we got an idea," and they're like, "All right, it's a praying mantis, and he's in a bar," and they're like, "All right," and so we draw it up.
It's
and
how it always starts. Praying mantis in a bar. Heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah, I bet you've seen a lot of praying mantis jokes.
Praying mantis and a priest and a rabbi go into a bar.
So yeah,
And then the
that's
praying mantis eats them all.
So I guess that's the answer to your audience question.
Yes.
We've built an audience now. And,
That's good.
And they're coming to see us.
When is your next live podcast?
Next live podcast is in April. And
I'm going to go.
Oh, great. You should come. It's on
Where do
Laurie's
you-
side at Caveat.
Oh, Caveat's great.
Yeah, so follow us. We have a Facebook page, just Is There Something in This? And you can follow me on Instagram at Jason Chatfield. Or Scott Dooley is at Scott Dools on Instagram. We'll plug it on the podcast and on social media so that everyone knows where and when. And there's a big mystery special guest, is a movie star. We got
Really?
literally a big movie star, Hollywood movie star. Yeah.
Hollywood movie
Yeah,
star.
it's a pretty big one.
That's exciting.
Excited about
And this
it.
is in April.
That's in April, yeah, and then we have 2 in May. We have 2 at NCS Fest. So
Okay.
we have like the 17th and 19th of May. We have our first guest is confirmed, and he's huge. I've already mentioned him on this podcast. I'm not
Who?
going to say who it is.
Is it Roy Wood Jr.?
No, not again, no.
No.
But we're teasing that one, but you'll know pretty soon who that's
You've
gonna
said it
be.
on this podcast already?
I've said his name on this podcast, yes. So you'll have to go
I'm
back.
going to have to rewind.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to rewind this podcast. to
Rewind
find
this
out who
live
it is.
podcast.
All right.
Yeah, but that's going to be really fun. And we'll do 2 that weekend. One on Friday, one on Sunday.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes, that's
You
gonna
have a
be
lot of stuff going.
great. Yeah, keep him busy.
You keep very busy.
Keep him busy.
This has been Jason Chatfield. Jason Chatfield, thank you so much for being a guest on Talkward and taking some time out of your busy day. Go home and write some Ginger Meg jokes in a bathtub. And New Yorker and Mad Magazine and a bajillion other things he's doing. So follow him at Jason Chatfield, at Jason_Chatfield on Twitter. Because there's that holdout.
Ugh, that guy.
And yeah, go see him live. And what's the website for Is There Something in This?
Yeah, you can it's on anywhere, every podcast app you can find. Wherever you listen to podcasts, just type in, Is There Something in This? And
Is There Something in This? Then they talk about cartoons
Yeah.
and New Yorker stuff. And that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason Chatfield, for being on Talkward.
Thanks, Marty. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. I'm Marty Downix, editor-in-chief of Weekly Humorist Magazine. Follow us online at weeklyhumorist.com and sign up for our e-newsletter. We also do guaranteed delivery comedy shows. Check those out at guaranteeddelivery.tv. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. And we'll stop this.